You're still the one I run to, the one that I belong to. I give my hand to you with all my heart.
She was country music's brightest star.
You got me to believe.
Topping charts, filling stadiums, and flashing that million-dollar smile on every stage. But behind the scenes, her world was crumbling. Her voice, the very thing that made her a legend, began to vanish without warning.
Do you feel what I feel inside? You know I love.
And just when she needed support the most, her husband didn't just leave, he ran off with her best friend. What do you do when the two things that define you, your voice and your love, betray you at the same time? This is the story of how Shania Twain lost everything and somehow found a way back. You're watching RetroWaves, where legends rise, fall, and leave behind the truth no one saw coming. Subscribe for more untold stories. Eileen Regina Edwards didn't grow up with dreams of superstardom. She grew up with a need to survive. Raised in Timmins, Ontario, her childhood was marked by instability, domestic violence, and poverty. She learned early that if she wanted peace, she had to sing through the pain. By 13, she was performing in bars. At 22, after her parents were killed in a car accident, she became legal guardian to her younger siblings. Music was her lifeline, and it carried her out of the shadows. When she met producer Mutt Lange, their connection was electric, professionally and personally. Their 1995 album, The Woman in Me, introduced the world to a new sound, bold, catchy, and unapologetically feminine.
When the nights get too long and I just...
Then, Come On Over. In 1997 exploded, 12 singles, hundreds of millions in revenue, and a brand new face for country pop. Shania Twain wasn't just a singer anymore, she was a global icon. But by the early 2000s, Shania's golden era began to quietly unravel. At first it was subtle. She had trouble reaching certain notes. Her signature power started fading during live performances. She chalked it up to fatigue. The fans didn't notice, but she did. Behind closed doors, the voice that had built her empire was starting to betray her. Doctors offered no answers. She felt isolated, anxious. She scaled back on recording, blaming burnout. But something deeper was wrong. And then, it all came crashing down. In 2004, while vacationing in Switzerland, Shania was bitten by a tick. What seemed like a small incident turned out to be life-altering. She was diagnosed with Lyme disease, a condition that often goes undetected until it wreaks havoc. In Shania's case, it attacked her nervous system, causing dizziness, blackouts, and worst of all, damage to her vocal cords. She didn't know it yet, but her voice, her identity, was slipping away. To the world, she disappeared. But in reality, she was drowning in silence. She stopped recording, she stopped touring, she even stopped singing at home. It was too painful. Every note reminded her of what she had lost. And just when it seemed like it couldn't get worse, it did. In 2008, her 14-year marriage to Mutt Lange shattered. The betrayal wasn't just shocking, it was intimate. Mutt had been having an affair with Marie-Anne Thibault, Shania's best friend, her closest confidant, the woman she trusted with her home, her children, her secrets. Reports say Shania confronted Marie-Anne directly. She begged her for the truth. Marie-Anne denied everything. Mutt followed with silence, and just like that, the fairy tale was over. The producer who had built her music, the man who had built her life, was gone. In a cruel twist of fate, Shania had lost her voice, and the two people she'd leaned on the most. Unconfirmed rumors swirled that the affair had been going on for years, that Marie-Anne had orchestrated the relationship from the inside, that Mutt had grown cold and manipulative long before the breakup. None of it was ever proven, but the emotional wreckage was very real. And in the wake of it all, Shania vanished. For nearly 8 years, Shania Twain fell off the radar. There were no albums, no interviews, no big comebacks. She was a ghost. Behind the scenes, she was undergoing vocal therapy, physical rehabilitation, and emotional repair. Her vocal cords had developed dysphonia, a condition triggered by trauma, often psychological. She described it as feeling like someone was strangling her throat when she tried to speak. The irony was brutal. The woman whose voice had been her weapon, her shield, and her identity couldn't even speak without pain, and emotionally, she was shattered. The betrayal had gutted her. She admitted in later interviews that she had contemplated never singing again, that the stage, once her sanctuary, had become a symbol of everything she'd lost. But something inside her refused to quit. Slowly, she started writing again. She began journaling the pain, the loss, the rage, and eventually those words turned into lyrics, and then an unlikely twist. Frédéric Thiebaud, Marie-Anne's ex-husband, had been betrayed too. He and Shania leaned on each other for support, understanding each other's grief in a way no one else could. What started as friendship turned into something neither of them expected: love. In 2011, they got married. The woman who had lost everything, her voice, her marriage, her identity, was finally starting to find something new. In 2017, Shania Twain released Now, her first album in 15 years. Her voice was different, huskier, rawer, more vulnerable. Some fans struggled to accept the change. Critics were mixed. But Shania didn't care, because for her, just making it to that moment was a triumph.
And oh, I'm swinging.
The album debuted at #1 in the US, UK, Canada, and Australia. Her story of illness, betrayal, and rebuilding resonated deeper than any chorus ever could. She opened up in interviews like never before. She spoke about losing trust, about learning to stand on her own, about the long, silent years of hiding, and through it all, she never pointed fingers. Not once did she publicly trash Mutt or Marie-Anne. She let her survival speak for itself. But the fallout was real. The industry she once ruled had changed. Younger stars filled the radio. Her comeback was celebrated, but not without skepticism. Could the queen of country pop still command attention in a new era? She didn't care. She went on tour anyway, and for fans, seeing her back, even with a new voice, even with the scars, meant everything. But perhaps the most telling part of the fallout was the way she redefined what power meant. It wasn't in the high notes or the flashy videos anymore. It was in her silence, her survival, her choice to love again. Years ago, Shania Twain stood on top of the world, only to watch it all collapse in a matter of months. Her voice failed, her heart broke, her name vanished from the spotlight. But what she rebuilt in its place wasn't just a career. It was a legacy of resilience. Today, her voice carries a different weight, not because of how it sounds, but because of what it survived. And maybe that's the real story here, not the betrayal, not the silence, but the woman who walked through fire, and came out singing anyway.